job in pharmaceutical sales up here in the South Bronx and Washington Heights.
So you come back to New York. Are you thinking, hey, I want to be in pharmaceutical sales for the rest of my career, or is just a job that is a transitional state for you?
It was definitely transitional, but I won't pretend. I definitely was not a person who had like every next step mapped out. I'm a big believer in, and forgive me, it's a little bit corny, but like whatever you're doing, like just being the best in that moment. Like I've been a lot of places where people be like, well, I do this receptionist job just halfway because this is not my real job. Like, no, it's your real job today. So like whatever you're doing in that moment, I'm like, I try to just shine in that moment. And to be honest, pharmaceutical sales is a great job. I was like, this is great. You got a car, I'm winning trips to Hawaii, this is terrific. I was like, I don't have to go to an office. So it is actually it was a cool industry to be in. And I just tried to be as good as I could be in that moment. I love learning. So I was always conscious of like, what new industry is going on? What's everybody doing? Like trying to always hear and learn and learn and learn until the next opportunity came up, which ended up being in, a friend of mine was actually looking for a job. So I just brought her up to Power 105 radio station because I knew somebody up there and I was like, you would be great at this. I'm gonna introduce you. And I was very happy in my job. I was like, you should just meet these people and I'll just sit here. And while I was talking to the general manager, he was like, well, you should come work here too. Like, why don't you come? I was like, no, I'm not doing radio sales anymore. That's like selling drugs. You get paid, like so on radio sales, you gotta cover your own salary basically. You work on what's called a draw. So if you make $5,000 a month, you need to have sold enough to cover that amount. And I was like, nah, pharmaceutical sales is terrific. You're gonna have to pay me. So I had nothing to lose. So I just like asked for like what I thought was a crazy number. And so that ended up being basically like my first six-figure job. And they was like, okay, we'll pay you that amount. And I took it. And at that time, it was a big deal when Power 105 launched. I don't know if you probably remember this too.
Wow.
Because Hot 97 was the epicenter of hip hop in the world, and really still is. So the idea that this controversial Me Too station would try to come against it, now it seems ridiculous, but at the time it was actually a big deal. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy. I love hip hop. I love music. I'll do it. So I took the job. Started.
And it's ad sales?
Ad sales.
Okay.
So selling radio time, selling event sponsorships. And shortly after I started, maybe a few months after I started, the friend that I knew there quit, and the GM gave me all of his accounts, which were all the music labels in New York, which was essentially how this kind of started. Bad Boy Records was funny at the time, respectfully, was so loyal to Hot 97, they refused to advertise on Power 105. Do you remember this?
I remember it very well.
Yeah,
and I'll go one better for you. When Power 105 came into fruition many years ago, Puff took at least, 6 months to a year before he ever stepped in the building. He just had that much loyalty to the radio station that broke him, which was Hot 97.
Yes. So then I broke Bad Boy Records to advertise on the station. And then got Sean John with Mel Smith. I don't know, you probably don't even know this. Right, so we didn't know each other back then, right? So yeah, so then
So you were a big deal in the building.
Yeah, it was a big deal to them because they were trying to get back. It was a big deal that like to be able to get back. At that time, as you can imagine, it was like, we finally got Bad Boy Records to advertise on the station. So that worked out well. And then at some point, one of the executives, Mignon, who was an executive that worked with Puff and the Bad Boy team, called me and said, this is later, and said, Puff is looking to hire a chief of staff. Would you be interested in applying for the role? And she basically, honestly, I think she felt like she was like, Puff sends emails at 3 a.m., you send emails at 3 a.m., I think y'all just get along, right? So I was like, okay. So I was like, sure, I'll interview for it. Interview with a woman who had been there for many years, Vashta, who passed me on to interview with Puff. Shortest interview I ever had. It was like 5.5, 6 minutes. He has the best poker face, so I had no idea what happened. And they called me and said, he would like to offer you the job, but you don't have a lot of experience managing large teams. Would you be willing to come on and start as his assistant? And I literally was like, you could call me the janitor, but this is what you gotta pay me. And then, so I just said yes, took it, started a couple weeks later.
Question for you.
Yes.
What was your first impression of Puff?
So.
And was that your first time meeting him?
Yeah, so I think the funny thing, growing up here, it was very much in that era where, Puff, we used to throw Christmas parties. I forgot the place up the street. So we had some people in common, but by no means did we know each other before that time. I think I don't know. I guess my first impression was, I mean, Puff is an impressive person in the building. I think he asked really great questions. He was very serious, and I appreciate that he took it seriously, right? So it was not like a
So
frivolous
those
thing
4
to him.
minutes he took serious.
He took it serious. He was very direct. He asked me like real questions. It was short, but I could see that his mind moved fast, and I felt like we were compatible and to be able to be quick from a pace standpoint. So my initial thinking was just like, I respect that there must be a part of him, even him starting off as an intern working for Andre Harrell, that understands how important the role of assistant is, right? He's not passing off to nobody. He's asking real questions. He's looking me in my eye, and it may have been short, but it was intentional.
So you come in, you interview for chief of staff.
Yes.
Vashta calls you back.
Yes.
Hey, Puff loves you, likes you at the time,
Yes.
impressed. You don't have experience managing a large team. Would you like to take his executive assistant?
Yes.
And as long as the number was right, you're like, I'm in.
And I can't say it's enough. Like, do not get caught up in the titles. The thing that was interesting to me was I felt like this is somebody that I could learn from. And again, like I'm a perpetual, I think, be a curious person in life. If you have an opportunity to go and learn something new, sometimes it may seem like a short-term setback, but there could be real value in what you're adding to your worth, to nurturing your soul and your brain. And for me, I was like, this is something new and novel from somebody who I really respect. I'm happy to take the title of assistant. I'd never been an assistant before.
It's so interesting because this is a reoccurring theme to so many people in the room who have come for some of our other interviews. The goal is to get in the door. I don't care what level you get in the door. You're looking at a woman who has risen through the ranks from assistant to CEO, but she had to first get in the door, and if her ego got in the way, if she had just allowed her ego, no, absolutely not. I have experience, I'm making X amount of dollars at my job, I'm gonna stay here. How dare you, even approach me to be your assistant? Who knows if she'd be on this stage today? So please always keep that in mind. Get in the door. You can take it from there if you have the skill set. How long did you work as his assistant?
So it's funny. I started October 5th, 2005, and I would say by December he promoted me to senior executive assistant, and then a couple months later I went in. So this is the other thing I would say: be proactive, be play. I try to say like, what's your elegantly impactful approach, right? So I knew that. I felt very good about it. Like I've started and I've made significant change in the time I've been here, right? You don't have to waste. The other thing, you don't have to be like, oh, let me learn and figure it out. I was like, no, I'm gonna make changes in the first hour, right? So that a month later is gonna be like somebody else's 5 months. 3 months later is gonna be like somebody else's year. So 5 months later, I walked in and I was like, hey, I'm looking at the chief of staff description. I feel like I'm feeling it. Like how are we going to, and I actually really was more so like, what, is there a gap that needs to be achieved because I feel like I'm already in this role? He was like, no, you're doing a great job, blah, blah, blah. We'll think about it. I came back a couple weeks later and he said, okay, I'll think about it. He never formally said it to me, but a couple days later, we were at the studio and he introduced me to actually Stephen Hill at the time as his chief of staff.
Nice.
So I'm like, run away, I just changed my signature. Call HR, I got promotion. And then from there, went on to do a couple more roles, obviously.
Okay, we're going to talk about those couple more roles, but here's a compliment I have to pass along to you. I have never, and I've worked with Puff for the better part of my adult life. I have never seen anyone, including his quote unquote managers, manage Puff as effectively as Dia Sims. Where did that come from? Your style, like Puff, we all know he is this mad genius, but your cool, calm, collective, result-driven self, I just never seen anybody manage him the way that you did.
I think it's, we joke like in business, I'm like, you have Mary J, that was your thing in music. I was like, in business, I feel like we have that kind of synergy in terms of like getting things done. I'll give you one example. This is just really, again, back to the math of it. At one point, I went to Sean's CFO, Derek, and asked to do like a look at how much does Puff actually make an hour doing different activities, right? So I just like, let me look at like, if he's working on making the band if he's making a song, if he's working on a Ciroc, whatever it is, like how would that equate if I straight line it and say like on this thing you losing $17,000 an hour, on this thing you're making, because I wanted to try to help be pragmatic about driving his time and saying like, look, Puff, you're an amazing visionary and you need to be free to do the things that only you can do, right? Things you're not good at is scheduling, right? And budget management. Let me do those things so that you can spend all your time doing things that you do best. And then also like stop saying yes to things that are detracting from the time for you to be creative. Because this is a guy who's worked his whole life. He's to this day, like he'll say, it's not like he used to work at, or he learned what he used to work at Procter & Gamble, or like he used to work for Con Edison. He's been doing this since he was a teenager, around the clock. So there's certain skill sets that like, no matter how great he is, he hasn't developed. I think the other thing is like knowing the balance of when somebody needs to be pushed and when somebody needs to be protected, right? So I would also say to him, and I said this very early on, I was like, I'm gonna do the best possible job. Nobody's gonna get in my way of that, including you, right? So like if you're telling me like I have a certain responsibility or you have to be there and you feel sleepy today, and I'm like, nah, this is $3 million, like I'm going to be the one banging on the door like, you said we had to get this done, so that means that's my responsibility to get it done. Like, I'm going to do absolutely every physical thing that I can do to get there because I care about my reputation as well.
Dear, you go from assistant, chief of staff, president of Blue Flame, president of Combs Wine and Spirits, president of Combs Enterprises. Did I name them all?
Mostly. Yeah.
Another compliment I have to give you, and I think it's important for all of the ladies who are in the building. Again, Dia Sims is our first lady to grace the Powermove Maker stage. Dia, and I say this I know we're in the Me Too era, so I'm gonna watch my words very carefully.
I think you're safe, you're safe zone.
But I've never heard a peep of any rumors, you work, like, I'm from Bad Boy. It's a guy-driven company. Mm-hmm. It is a male-driven culture in music and entertainment.
Yeah.
You're extremely effective in managing Puff and all of his affiliate businesses. But the way you carry yourself with such class and grace, and to this day, I could barely, I don't know anything about, I know you're married, all of that good stuff. For any women out there, what are some of, I guess, the jewels you can give them in terms of, and I guess I'll say it the way Jay-Z said it, you move through a room full of vultures.
That's a fact.
Crazy.
No, yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like we kind of grew up. This is something, and I'm happy, not just me, I feel like I have a group of women who are amazing around me that understand that exact point. Like I could think of times, even growing up well before, where being in environments that, you had to ensure you were being treated like a lady, right? So I am a little old fashioned in that respect of, I know it's a newfangled era, but I do feel like I love being a woman. Like I'm happy to be, like I honestly, this is an exciting new thing for me. Like I literally used to just wear dresses only. So I was like, I'm gonna wear pants, I'm 44. I think it's important when you think through the gravitas that you move throughout this world. I mean, women are so enormously powerful. And I think when you stand in that grace, people can sense that.